Hi, welcome. My name's Moonlight Mystic. I am a spiritual activist and visionary, and my role is to bring the spiritual speak. These are the spiritual perspectives of how to navigate the inner and outer world energies of our existence. So first of all, I've just written a few notes this morning and sort of had this download coming through. And so I am going to read my notes, and I might just stop in between and just allow for the flow of whatever wants to come through So basically, the topic today is the spirit that is currently existing amongst us. So when we begin to identify the spiritual dynamics of the spiritual world that exist amongst us, then we can begin to navigate, because a lot of what is happening under the surface. It is happening within the emotional guidance system and the deeper realms of our inner world. Okay, because the world that exists, that we see in everyday reality of this physical reality, everything that exists in our world has come from the inner world of mankind. Okay, because this is the transmission center. This is the place of declaration. This is the system that is connected to the creation and manifestation of our world. Anything you see physically in your world, it got there through consciousness, and it got there through energy. Okay, and so everything that exists through the mechanism of consciousness and the energy that is given to that consciousness. Now, the energy that is given to consciousness comes through the declaration and through the transmission, the energetic transmission of that declaration. And so what needs to happen is that our inner man needs to reflect, our external world needs to reflect the internal world of our soul. And so when that soul or that world has become imbalanced from within, then we see the representation of that in the reflection of the imbalances that are being produced externally, that are being reflected back to us. And so the heart is a vibrational transmission. So within the heart, we hold the paradigm, we hold our beliefs, our values, our perspectives, and a lot of these things have been built upon a artificial referential point of just the external world, and so there's no balance from within. So the navigation that we are on is the navigation of our new world, and that world is the world that must be defined and take form from within through the alignment of this system. When we align the heart to the head, then we find the spiritual speak and the spiritual declaration, and therefore the transmission of the world that we are seeking to create. And so the world that we are creating at this time is that we are officially not just in a national catch-22 and psychological crossfire. We are in a global catch-22 and psychological crossfire. And what you'll find is that the catch-22 it exists inside of you. And so when you can begin to bring this world into balance, what happens is that you are literally changing the vibration, the dynamic, and the transmission of our world existence. Okay, so this collective spirit that is amongst us at the moment is divided, because that is the dynamic that was declared. That was the energetic declaration and transmission of the leadership that was that believes at this point that they are in control. And so I beg to differ. But anyway, so this collective spirit is divided. So what does that mean? It means that we are generating two perspectives when it comes to the paradigm that we are creating. So these two different perspectives are, of course, in conflict to each other because they are identifying the two existing referential points of our energetic declaration and transmission. So the common ground that we all have as humanity is that we exist in the greater spirit of the common ground that exists in the greater spirit of our national identity. It comes from the perspectives of the living presence of our own energetic soul recognition. So we have to, if we want change, we have to become very clear in terms of the internal guidance and recognition of our own soul and what that identity represents, because we are facing a psychological crossfire that is determined to change the very essence of our identity and the very essence of how we turn up our in the world. What is our soul transmission? What is our declaration? And what is our paradigm? Because ultimately, of course, they want to control these things because ultimately we are the transmission, we are the consciousness, and we are the energy. So if there is an artificial paradigm that can be enforced from within, then that paradigm or that program is what we will, is what humanity begins to generate and to transmit and to declare. And so what we speak and what we speak in terms of our personal declaration, what we transmit in terms of the vibrational energy of that declaration, and what we the paradigm that we form is now underway and needs to be reclarified and redefined, because this is the inner heart vision of our world, okay, of our existence, right? It's not just about COVID. It's not just about those things. It is not. It is something far, far deeper. And so we all have this common ground because we are the living presence of the inner man that exists within this body. We are not just bodies. We are not born without a soul. We have a living presence and a spirit that is part of our existence. And so the spiritual principles are what need to be established in this case. The paradigm is what governs our energetic declaration that we are making in relationship to the way we are identifying ourselves within the greater dynamic. I'm going to say that again. The paradigm is what governs our energetic declaration. and that we are making in relationship to the way we will identify ourselves within the greater dynamic of this world. Okay, the paradigm. And so this is why we need to create a paradigm shift. The paradigm is what is existing within your inner world. Okay, whatever side of the fence you stand. The conflict of interest is the enforced transmission that is being identified as protection. You know, and so this is the energetic declaration of the paradigm is what we are doing with the paradigm in terms of our expression of it. Okay, the energetic declaration is what you are doing with the paradigm in terms of your expression of it. Okay, and then the conflict of interest is the enforced transmission that is being identified as the protection, the paradigm of protection. And this is a conflict of interest because it is enforced. That paradigm of protection is enforced. It is not something that has come through the people and for the people. It is something that has been enforced upon us. And so we control the inner world of our own paradigm declaration and transmission. We decide what will govern. And so that means that we have to move into the center of self-governance, of governing the self. Because when we govern the self, we are no longer being subjected to the universal governance of a foreign and artificial paradigm that doesn't belong to our soul. Okay. The paradigm of health that has been declared and transmitted through us is because it's being declared over us and then transmitted through us. And so we need to look at that separate, as a separate thing. Because when we are in conflict, or when the greater spirit of our existence is divided from within, then what happens is that there is chaos, confusion, conflict, war, even. This is a serious, deeper issue that we are facing. Okay, and so the paradigm of health that has been declared and transmitted through us is an artificial form of health because it does not qualify as health under the National Code of Conduct in relationship to the full spectrum of what health is intended to represent. Okay, and so any form of health that is found to be if any form of health is found to be creating confusion, conflict, and damage to the emotional, mental, and spiritual realms of our inner existence, then it is not health. I don't know what that is, but it is not health. Okay, that is an artificial form of health. If it is causing confusion, conflict, and damaging the mental, emotional, and spiritual realms of our inner existence, that we can't think, that we can't live, that we can't work, that we can't get along with one another, that there's no harmony, all those sorts of things, then that is not health. That is an artificial form of health. The declaration of health is far deeper than just a superficial representation of it. Okay? If we are going to represent health as a species, then we must represent it fully. Okay? And that expression of health needs to come from the inner man, and it must be governed by the inner man, not by an external force. So the energetic interpretation of health that has been enforced upon us is surfacing as a far deeper conflict that exists within. This deeper conflict we feel is coming from how we are being expected to identify the self, all aspects of the self, from within, by only using the outer dynamics of this national code. So this is what is causing the conflict of interest. It is that there is a deeper conflict that we are all feeling that is coming from how we are being expected to identify the self. This self exists from within. It is the inner man. And so we cannot only be using the outer dynamics of this national code of health. We need to be using the inner code and the outer code, and they need to be in full compliance. If you fear COVID, then you will have to also fear people, fear working, fear living, fear just about everything, and fear the possibility of catching it from someone else, because fear as an energy is what causes us to be caught in a paradigm that will force your subconscious mind to believe that it has no control. That is the essence of what fear is. I'll say it again, okay? Fear is an energy that causes us to be caught in a paradigm that forces our subconscious mind to believe that it has no control and no governance. That is fear. So if you want full fear to rule over your system, then that is the paradigm that you will generate. This belief that we have no control exists only when the paradigm of the referential point of control is being presented as something that can only exist through the control of other people. Okay, and so these beliefs in how to have control can only exist when the paradigm is attached to only one referential point, being the external referential point of the need to control something that is outside of ourselves. And so what we often don't realize is that there are actually two referential points and to our existence, and we in our existence are actually created with an inner and outer referential point. This is a part of the full spectrum of health. And when we are not fully connected to our inner guidance system of navigation, which is our second referential point, and this point is the point of awareness, where we tend to interpret, if we are not connected to that point, then we tend to interpret our reality from an imbalanced point of reference. If we are just taking an external paradigm of reality into the equation, then we are not the full spectrum of existence. We are not the living presence of our own soul. We are not the consciousness, and we are not the energy. We have become a robotic body of energy. I hate to say that, but truth hurts, and so there is a paradigm shift and a repositioning and redefining of the full spectrum of health. When we're not fully connected to our inner guidance system of navigation, which is our second referential point, we tend to interpret reality from an imbalanced point of reference. This is what causes us to violate the energetic boundary of another person's soul by enforcing them to own our fears and follow the paradigm that is supporting our inner feeling of chaos, confusion, and ultimately the feeling of not being in control. How ironic is this, right? So this is a form of spiritual violence, because in this case, the projection is not the declaration, and what is being projected upon us from another person is not the declaration and transmission of our own internal guidance system. It belongs to somebody else. This is our point. When we protest, which is the protest of the heart, we say this fear and this paradigm does not belong to me, so I'm not going to transmit it. I'm not going to declare it. I am not going to give it my awareness. I'm not going to declare it, and I'm not going to transmit it. And for the people that want to be aware of that paradigm of fear, then it is up to you to declare it and transmit it yourself, and be in governance of it. Govern your fears. Govern them. Because when you take responsibility and you begin to govern from within and take authority and self-govern, then you have no need to control everyone else. Right. So people who seek to enforce their own internal energetic map over others, are violating the spiritual law of governance. The spiritual law of governance. I'm talking about spiritual law. Each person is entitled under the spiritual law of governance to own their own awareness, their own declaration, and their own transmission, because this is an expression of the paradigm that belongs to the one that is responsible for governing it. And so this paradigm is the paradigm of our soul. So before you go following all these orders that you've been given, recognize that this is the paradigm of your soul that you're taking on, because we all need to respond from a place of awareness that recognizes this dynamic of existence that is being projected through this paradigm. We are now forced as the people to find our identity within it. Okay, that's the catch-22. And so our identity within this paradigm is the spiritual principle of governance. That is what rebalances the dynamic that exists between us, between fear and awareness, between control and self-governance, between the full spectrum of health and the artificial paradigm that is seeking to represent it. This is what we are facing. And so if you are interested, there is a fuller expression of awareness, of a visual integration that I have created that explores the paradigm shift, the psychological crossfire, and the conflict of interest, because these videos are presenting the spiritual perspective of the inner world. And so when we are connected to that inner world, to its dynamic, to its principle, to its declaration, and to its transmission through our own consciousness and energy, when we have that full connection, then we are free from the matrix. And so we are all at a crossroads, and we will either take the position of navigator, or we will take the position of being ruled over by a foreign entity. All right, that's it. That's it for now. That's half an hour of download. And if you want to jump on over to YouTube, there will be a video there. It's called The Catch-22, The Psychological Crossfire and the Conflict of Interest. Blessings, love, and light to all. Namaste.